Revelation chapter 14, verses 1 through 3, 4, and 5. I, John, looked, there was the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. I heard a sound from heaven, like the sound of rushing water or a loud peal of thunder. The sound I heard was like that of harpists playing their harps. They were singing what seemed to be a new hymn before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one can learn this hymn except for the 144,000 who had been ransomed from the earth. These are the ones who will follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They have been ransomed as the first fruits of the human race for God and the Lamb. On their lips no deceit has been found. They are unblemished. Gospel. Luke chapter 21, verses 1 through 4. When Jesus looked up, he saw some wealthy people putting their offerings into the treasury. He noticed a poor widow putting 2 small coins. He said, I tell you truly, this poor widow has put in more than all the rest, for those others have made offerings from their surplus wealth, but she from her poverty have offered her whole livelihood. As I reflect upon these readings today, I feel like I'm being told that I need to be willing to give all, so that I may follow Jesus. Sad to say, unfortunately, I do not give all. I hold back. I don't hold back as much as I used to. I can say that in consolation, but deep down in my heart of hearts, I know that I still hold back from the Lord. I'm a work in progress. I'm a dirty sinner who is going through a process of cleansing by God's word and his sacraments. And I am very grateful. I was reflecting earlier today before I read these readings of how far I've come, but also mindful of how far I have to go. I wondered, if I had started my deepening of faith earlier in life, from the beginning, how much happier I'd be now, how much sorrow I would have missed out on. It is true, I would have missed out on some pleasure. I have had the opportunity for much pleasure in my life, but I can't really say that it's made me a better person. Following God's will and following God's way and loving the way he asks me to, completely, him and everyone I meet, that's where I find happiness. Maybe not in the moment. There are some times I don't feel happiness at all. But if it weren't for God's love and realizing the abundance of his love at all times, I would not be ready for love at all times. I'd always be looking over my shoulder. I remember probably 3 or 4 years ago, I pulled up to the post office and I got out of my truck. It was a truck that I purchased off my father, and it was his work truck, and it had also seemed a lot of love and abuse. It was kind of banged up on the outside, to put it bluntly. And as I got out of the truck, there was this father and son getting out of their vehicle, and I can't even recall what they were driving. The young man looked at me and he said, "Nice truck." And I looked at him and I said, "Thank you." It didn't even dawn on me until later that he was probably making fun of me because my truck was so old and run down and beat up. For me, a pickup truck, yes, if it's in perfect condition, they can be a beautiful thing. But for me, a pickup truck, if it doesn't have some rust, if it doesn't have some dents and dings, a pickup truck is a work truck. And so while some people may look at my truck like that young man did and thought it was an eyesore, I was quite proud of that truck because it reminded me of all the hard work that my father had done in raising me and how he taught me the value of a good day's work. And it gave me something to look forward to and to look up to. When I have a bad day at work, when I work really hard, even when things go really wrong, at the end of the day, when I get to have perspective on my day, I can say, well, I gave it my all, I gave it my best. Dad would be proud. And I think the only reason why, when I heard those young man's words, as he was probably making fun of my vehicle of choice, I took it as love because I was prepared for love. Because I've been trying to walk this path as a Christian. I'm not perfect by any means. I have a long, long way to go. But I am thankful that I had the Lord's love in my heart that day. For if I had heard his words and heard them in mockery, it very well could have hurt my feelings and even ruined a good part of my day. But because of God's love, because of his word, because of his assurances to me, if I follow his will and his way and love his will and love in the way he asked me to love, then I will have joy and peace and happiness even in those moments when I'm ridiculed and put down. I don't know. That's all I got to say about that.